I don't think we should sit here and say, because there's a disproportionate amount of black people on TV, that the only reason for that is DEI.
So
like,
what could be another reason?
Talent.
Now we're back to saying that black people are better than white people.
Talent, preference.
Preference, that being the DEI quotas.
Really violent gender dysphoria, just so you could know for sure that you actually had gender dysphoria. That is a form of gender dysphoria, and you might be a transbian.
This misgendering and misnaming and downright ignorance, to be honest, has to stop.
This week's theme honors Lesbian Visibility Week, as I myself am a trans lesbian.
Hi everyone, welcome back to the Jack Jewell podcast. It is me, Jack Jewell, and you are very welcome. If you are new, hello there. I thought I'd do a bit of a shorter episode, hopefully, if I can stop myself from rambling, because I'm going to Cyprus on Thursday to celebrate my 30th birthday, which was almost a month ago, but time for celebration round 2. So going with friends, my boyfriend, going to be in a villa. It's like 30 degrees every day there right now. So I can't wait. Hoping to get this recorded and out, so there is still a podcast episode to enjoy this week. And thank you once again for everyone's kind comments on my episode with Stella. Loved that. And I now have my ticket to the GenSpect conference. So please let me know if anyone's going. It's in Lisbon in September. And who knows, maybe I can film some stuff there and make a video. We are almost at 3,000 subscribers. So if you're not subscribed, but you're watching, please click the button. Please click the notification bell. Comment down below. Let me know what you think of the Jack Jewell podcast so far. I think we're on episode 13. So it's really exciting. Today, I'm going to pivot away from news just because, it's been quite intense with the WPATH files, with the cast report and everything. And there's just so much trans stuff. We all need a break sometimes, right? First, I'd like to do a little bit of a reaction to a heated debate, is what it says, from Andrew Gold, a well-known podcaster now, has a channel devoted to cults and Scientology before, and obsessed with Meghan Markle as well. But he pivoted to a new channel called Heretics, where he's been hosting a podcast similar to Trigonometry, kind of interviewing controversial, of which they shouldn't actually be controversial, people basically telling the truth. Controversial people, primarily from the UK, unless I guess they're visiting, because he does all his podcasts in person, people who've been cancelled, that kind of thing. I really enjoy it. I think it has a bit of a way to go. It can get better. But this episode was very difficult to watch, and I found myself gritting my teeth the whole way through. I highly recommend you go watch it, but we're just going to react to a little segment today. So Andrew interviews Aluko, I believe I'm saying the name correctly. So she is a former football player and now a sports commentator on TV, on ITV, I believe. So she has had a huge career, so much success. She's black. She was actually born in Nigeria, I believe, and it says she moved to the UK at 6 months old. And this podcast episode is such a great example of how we are now conditioned to be so obsessed with race in Western society in a different way to as we were before. Obviously, racism of the past, abhorrent transgression. However, how we're viewing race nowadays is so different, and it shows us that through the power of critical race theory, you can be black, and it doesn't matter how successful you are, you can still buy into these ideas that you are somehow more oppressed than the white man sitting opposite you, who's actually been supremely disadvantaged because of his race. I guess this is an interview, but it sort of turns into this debate about DEI and hiring processes. And I've just chosen a segment here to react to, so let's go.
Coming out, if I came out to the press properly, the mainstream press, and said I wasn't hired because I'm a white person, okay, maybe certain newspapers we can think of might run with that story, but it wouldn't be the look that I want. Do you know what I mean? If you start saying, hey, I'm not hired because I'm a white man, can you see what I'm thinking when I think what the look that is for me? what that would look like.
Well, I just feel like, after knowing you for less than 20 minutes, I just feel like you shouldn't let that be an established narrative until you actually know that that's the case.
Right. So Andrew has explained earlier in the podcast that he developed a documentary, which was an enormous amount of effort, traveling the globe, and he speaks multiple languages. So he was speaking to people who believe in all sorts of crazy things. He's very interested in the psychology of secrets and crazy subcultures, cults, etc. And, it got to the stage where the BBC and other broadcasting agencies were eager to actually take him up on that and take on the documentary. But then with everyone, he ran into the hurdle and, well, not even hurdle, just the complete blockade of them saying, we want to take this on, but you will not be able to be the presenter because it needs to be someone from a minority background. When he tells her this story, she is just refusing to even believe him earlier in their episode. She says something along the lines, I'm probably paraphrasing here, but is this just your interpretation of what happened? And he explained several times that they literally told me to my face, we cannot take you on because we need to pick a minority background. And you can just see the refusal for her to accept that this is in fact happening to white people. I'm not saying it's not happening to no one else, but in this case, in terms of DEI, this guy right here, the straight white male that, demonized species that we're now among, is now the least likely to get these kind of jobs. And the whole podcast is just hilarious because he's sitting there, someone who's had to completely self-make himself on YouTube because of these opportunities being denied. And probably better off for it, because he's speaking about such important topics. But then she's opposite him, having had an incredible career, and she is very talented, which, by the way, she takes many, 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 many opportunities throughout the episode to kindly remind us how incredible she is and how her talent is a cut above the rest. She even says earlier in their episode, my talent was obvious from, the age of 4, where I was playing football with the white guys in the estate. And even that, I was thinking, why do you need to clarify that the boys in your estate were white and you were playing football with them?
Well, over about 7 years, I spoke to about 50 production companies, and every one of them, they go straight to the BBC and Channel 4, said about halfway through the chat, they said, we do have to talk about something a bit uncomfortable. And I said after a while, I said, I know what it is already. And they said, well, we would not be able to put you forward. Now, the thing is, the evidence,
terrible.
There are 1 or 2 emails, right, who actually put it in words.
It's just so funny how people are so easily brainwashed to thinking things are okay. And people look at racism in the past and they just think that, I assume they think, it was such a black and white situation where everyone knew they were racist and they were very happy to be racist and to be terrible. But in reality, of course, there were people at the top, certain individuals who knew that there was no difference between people of different skin colors when it comes to ability, and that it's just an arbitrary physical characteristic, similar to having a different color of hair. But sure, there are differences within the cultures, but, there's no reason to say why a black person does not have the same capability of having a certain level of intellect as a white person. But most white people were brainwashed to thinking that was not the case. They actually believed in this narrative that they were another type of human, did not have the IQ or ability to achieve the same things as white people, the same way men thought about women. We see this happening now, and I'm not here to say like, oh, white people's lives are so difficult. When you are at a significant disadvantage because of the color of your skin, that's a real problem, and we're seeing it. And she is just refusing to accept it. That is so terrible in an interview, them saying, oh, look, we have to discuss something quite uncomfortable now. I can just imagine it happening to black people, to gay people in the past, where the employer themselves wanted to hire them, but the powers above were not letting them do it. It really shows how simple-minded the human experience can be, because instead of looking at the past and saying, actually, that was all wrong. Let's change it now. Let's not disparage one side to get revenge. But that's not what's happening.
The evidence there are one or two emails, right, who actually put it in words, but I don't want to get those people in trouble. Because I understand their pressures.
I don't want to gaslight you either, right? So I don't want to sit here and be like, no, maybe you're imagining it, right? Because that's
why does she even need to say that? Just accept that he's telling the truth. Why would this guy have a reason to lie to you and say that people have told him this to his face and sent him emails? Why do you even have to say, look, I don't want to gaslight you? The only reason she has to say that is because her side and the left, and of course lots of black people don't agree with her, but then lots of people do, they're told to actually assume any story like that is a fabrication. So it's very hard for her to hold that belief in her mind and somehow find the strength to believe Andrew that he's telling the truth. And of course he is.
The proof is in the stats.
But and the reality is, in that situation, yeah, like that is an example of somebody being hired because, of their race.
Thank you. It takes her 29 minutes to admit this in the episode.
I'm here, and one of the main reasons I came on this podcast is to say that is not every single example. And I would argue that actually meritocracy now includes many people from different backgrounds being the best for the job.
Okay,
right?
so another stat, just to bear out my point then, is that
you find her, she says a lot in this, but it just doesn't, it's also vague. She starts so many sentences by saying, the reality of it is, and you'll see this circular logic.
3% of the UK population are black, and 8.1% of TV characters on screen are black. So if this is meritocracy and it's nothing to do with quotas and trying to push people up, is the assumption then that black people are just 2.5 times better at acting, newsreading, and those kinds of things?
Maybe.
Really?
I don't believe she believes that. I really, really don't. And when you tell someone the black population is 3%, and based on the amount we see in TV, they are 2.5 times more likely than a white person to be employed, it's just not possible that that is happening because of the roll of the dice and by chance. It's taking an enormous sample size, the whole country, everyone performing in media. You'll see her argue this next point about sports, and I agree with her that because of genetics, certain people can have advantages in sport. But really, when it comes to acting, I really don't think one race has a higher capability than another at acting. Maybe you could argue that certain socioeconomic backgrounds have higher access to acting training growing up as kids, but within higher socioeconomic cultures, you get more white people than otherwise. So if that were the case, you would see actually more white people. If we were just looking at meritocracy, she's always talking about meritocracy, but she doesn't actually believe in it because she won't accept the facts. And it's such a shame that the left is losing its ability to actually deal with statistics and facts. Statistics are so powerful when they are accurate. It's a very good way to win an argument or put your argument across. It's a simple way. You can say 3% of black people in the UK, however, this many percent are on TV. And what is the reason for that?
I mean,
so because for years,
why not?
But for years, when it was that were white people, there were more white people per person of the population. Saying something like that would be considered racist.
Saying something like what?
White people are just better at TV presenting and news presenting and stuff.
Well, when I mean, the white.
And she does this too. You can see her kind of stalling because she is trying to think of a circular argument to come back to Andrew with that won't actually refute what he's saying.
White people have been dominant for hundreds of years, right?
Sure.
So that has been the assumption. That
doesn't make any sense. Yeah, sure. We acknowledge that white people were dominant. There was white supremacy. They actually assumed we are superior to black people in terms of ability. That doesn't say anything for today. What we're trying to say is that was wrong. And today we should not do the same thing. So she agrees with him by, throughout this whole episode, she'll agree with him saying we should not just assume one race is better than another. And then he says, well, that is what's happening. And she says, oh, but white men were always dominant. And you're not making any sense.
But a wrong assumption. I mean, these are the assumptions that like Hitler made, that the white Übermensch were better than anyone else, and we came to realize as society.
I'm not sitting here saying black people are better than anybody else. I'm just saying.
What explains it? The 2.5 times more likely to be on TV in the UK.
What explains it, Annie? You're saying they're not necessarily just better than white people, but you won't give any other indication on why.
I mean, there's a variety of reasons, but I don't think we should sit here and say because there's a disproportionate amount of black people on TV that the only reason for that is DEI.
There's a variety of reasons. Care to give an example? No? Okay.
So what could be another reason?
Talent.
So black people are more.
Okay, so now we're back. Now we're back to saying that black people are better than white people. It's all circular with this gal.
Talent, preference.
Preference. That being the DEI quotas that these employers are working with.
But where does that preference come from if not a pressure for DEI?
I'm just saying things before Andrew says it, but there you go.
But again, we go back to it. What pressure for DEI? Does the film industry again? I'm talking about my industry.
Oh, another. There are just a list of tick box arguments when you're arguing with an ideologue. You can tick off to check, actually, am I arguing with someone who can deal with facts and is going to engage, or are they just going to load a bunch of gish gallops into this argument and not keep an open mind? That means we'll go nowhere. You can see Andrew is keeping an open mind, but when she gets into a pickle and she's gone, I'm not saying black people are better than white people. However, we can't just put that down to quotas. We can put it down to talent. Oh, but I'm not saying they're better than white people. And then she's stuck in a corner. She goes, no, I can only talk about my experience as a sports commentator. But you're not here just to talk about you. You're here to talk about DEI as a whole and the culture as a whole. So you can't just talk about you, because then that's just making it all about you. And we see this time and time again. The left is supposed to be caring about the collective and sharing resources and making everyone more equal. But when a leftist ideologue argues, they always talk about my experience. You know, a trans person, they won't want to talk about a detransitioner because it doesn't align with their narrative. They just talk about their experience.
The assumption that I'm in the job because I'm a black woman and tick a box is constantly leveled at me, despite how qualified I am for the job. Yeah. So, and I'm saying there is...
And the reason that's leveled at you is wrong, but the reason it's leveled at you is because of DEI and quotas and tokenism. So that's why we're arguing we should do away with that, because it's not helping. It's not helping you. It's not helping your credibility. It's not helping people that don't get the job because they're good enough. It's not helping anyone.
There is no DEI tick box.
But there is. They all use them. That's what Diamond Diversity is. It's to keep the TV channels in check.
It's just.
Yeah, and then, another tick box for the ideologue is there's no way that's happening. That is not happening. There are no tick box. There are no quotas. Okay, well, would you like to show me some proof of? Do you know the hiring strategy of every company in this country? Have you seen them? I've seen this firsthand. I'll have you know.
It's false.
They have to have a certain number of ethnic minorities.
Where is this coming from?
Well, I first heard it. I first heard it when I was told I can't be on TV.
You did.
But loads of people have been told that. You just don't know who they are because they've never.
So she's allowed to speak about her experience, but then when he says, for example, I had that experience, she's like, oh, well, that was just you. That doesn't speak for it all. You see?
I've been on TV.
You have to talk about your own experience. I have to talk about my own experience.
I'm talking about facts. I'm talking about 2.5 times.
What you've done is you've highlighted the amount of people in an industry
On screen.
disproportionate to the
Yes.
yeah, but and you're attributing
She's getting there.
to
She's
DEI
getting there.
policies.
I think the reason that
exists.
Forgive me if I'm wrong. I think one of the reasons that you're resistant to this is because of the assumption that you're there, specifically you.
Okay, that's fine. You could say you're wrong. Okay, so it's not because black people are better than white people, and it's not because of DEI, but why don't you give us another reason then? Because otherwise, what else do we have to believe?
Yeah,
Now,
and it's a really
shown
racist assumption.
You are extremely talented.
No,
and
it's
it seems
not.
like you were there based on talent.
Right.
However, some black people are there not necessarily because of talent, and the proof of that is the percentages.
But
unless black people are just better.
But some white people have been given opportunities without
20, 30 years ago, yes.
I mean, let's talk about. Well, no, you can't say that.
But I can.
That doesn't counter his argument. And actually, it validates his argument because he's saying that neither of those things are correct. That no one should just be getting a job or not getting a job because of their race.
The stats. White men are now the least likely to get a job on screen on TV based on the figures. There are more of them in general because the population, there are far more white people, right? But there are fewer on TV per person of the population.
Right.
So like 3% of black people, let's say, of the population, 8.5% on TV. So white people, let's say it's 40% in the population, there's like 35% on TV. I'm not someone sitting there going, this is a problem. There are too many black people on TV. Mm-hmm. Who cares, right? Mm-hmm. The problem is the number of white people who are then individuals. And let's not think of them as like groups, because every person is an individual. You know, every black person, every white person, every whatever other ethnic minority, they're all individual people. And it was, as I say, it was the hardest thing I've ever gone through. Was being told, because you're white, you can't have this job. So many people are being told that. And I think there are bigger problems
when you
as well.
say so many people have been told that, you have to qualify that. Like,
I qualify it with the stats. How could it be?
But that
her saying you have to qualify that is rich, because she doesn't, throughout this whole argument, she can't qualify anything except her own experience.
Those stats don't explain that so many people have been told that. You're just saying, how could it be?
How can it be that there are more than there are 2.5 times the number of black people on TV than the general population if certain white people are not given jobs unless black people are just better?
But there's certain industries that one type is more dominant than the other. You look at basketball, it's predominantly black because black people are really good at basketball. You look at, I don't know, I'm thinking chess. I mean, chess, I love chess, but there's not many black women that are very good at chess. I agree. I don't know.
But these are measurable competitions.
No, but what I'm saying is that...
Are you saying black women aren't better at chess because of their race? I don't think that makes sense. Basketball is, sure, that's based really on physical genetics, but there's a lot of sports in which clear differences can be seen based off, you know, what we call your race and the genetics you possess. But like I said, I really don't think that acting, and you could argue perhaps singing, but I just think white people and black people have different types of voices. I don't think one is more likely to be better, but you can't compare the two.
I accept if there's a predominance of white men in chess, unless there's contrary evidence, I'm just going to assume that there's lots of talented white men in chess. In the same way, now in 2024, you have a really nice, diverse slate of people playing football.
So maybe white people are just better at being in boardrooms in football. Why do we need to get more black people into there?
That's not the case, though, because we know there's a disproportionate amount of people who can be in the boardroom who are not.
How do we know that?
Because you have to look at the opportunities. You have to look at the amount of people who say, and again, there's evidence that actually there are people who are looking for those opportunities who have not even been considered. The recruitment policies, I talk about recruitment policies all the time, and I say, well, if we just keep recycling the same people, right? How do we know that the best person out there hasn't been hired for you haven't spoken to the best person possible for the job,
What recruitment policies is she talking about? Is she referring to some recruitment policies that say don't hire black people? Because those definitely don't exist. But what does exist, bitch, is DEI quotas. And if not quotas, DEI bias. You know? I was listening to something earlier, and you hear in the corporate world these statements that companies that are inclusive and diverse and have more diversity of, you know, these tick boxes are more likely to have higher profits, higher net value, higher revenue. But the only reason this exists and the proof of this exists is because companies that have high revenue and are conglomerates and, you know, corporate giants, they're then buying into the DEI strategies and implementing them. So it kind of works the other way around. It's not that DEI, they'll feed you this narrative that DEI means your company will be more successful, but there isn't any proof of that. It's the more successful companies that are pushing DEI and getting swept up in these quotas and diversity schemes and having staff members that are specifically hired for diversity and inclusion roles. And, you know, you could argue that more diversity of thought equals more productivity. Sure. And that people from different backgrounds can have different diversity of thought. I think there's an argument to be said there. But I think what we could do to tackle that is to ensure the hiring process takes diversity of thought into account. Ability, diversity of thought, what you can bring to the role on a unique level. But also, depending on what organization you work for, and if they are a politically charged organization in media and have certain values which are politically aligned, then you're not going to get certain types of people, right? Because you all need to have similar values. Now, in a corporate firm working for HR, you know, that doesn't need to be political at all. But honestly, you should go watch this debate. I will link it in the description and the show notes because it is just such a great example of the problem with the left, the problem with identity politics. And props to Andrew because he is able to keep such a cool level head throughout this whole thing. And despite having, you know, like he says, going through really, really tough times because of these policies, because of racism, he is able to just approach the conversation from a neutral point of view. And I think it's a great skill to be able to argue with someone who's so illogical and unable to engage. So I respect him for that. Okay, next up, we are going to woke TikTok's reaction. However, this first video is just a video that was posted to Twitter. And it, to me, just screams LGBT propaganda.
If you'll jump at any opportunity to cross-dress as a joke, you might be a transbian. If you make friends with girls, and especially queer girls, really easily, but feel kind of uncomfortable talking to men, you might be a transbian.
This person isn't even trying to hide. This is the kind of stuff you see on Reddit of someone saying, actually, today I felt a little bit feminine. Oh, trans. If you think you might be trans, you're trans. But this is even worse because it's discussing experiences of which anyone can have, like finding it easy to be friends with other lesbians or other queer, whatever that means. Girls, which probably just means you have a certain political bias and that you're woke, but you might be a transbian. So if you're a man and you find it difficult to make friends with men, you're probably a trans lesbian. So you might as well transition. And then the cross-dressing thing as a joke, I think, to me, that reads more as a fetish thing.
If you've ever wished that you experienced really violent gender dysphoria, just so you could know for sure that you actually had gender dysphoria, that is a form of gender dysphoria, and you might be a transbian.
I can't. Try and say this to someone else. You know, if you ever wished you had bipolar disorder, but you don't, then that is a form of bipolar disorder. And you have bipolar disorder.
If your favorite anime is Madoka Magica, you might be a transbian. If you have a very hard time understanding how anyone could be attracted to men, including yourself, you might be a transbian.
If you could not understand why anyone would be attracted to men, you might be a transbian. Yeah, straight men might be those people. They're definitely not attracted to men. They probably find it quite difficult to understand how you could be attracted to it. I'm gay. I find it, if I see a vagina, which I don't very often, I find it very hard to understand how someone would want to put their face in that. But the heart wants what it wants. And guys do. They do want that.
If you've ever seen a picture of a hot girl and your first thought was, holy shit, I'm gay. Wait, no, I'm not. Your first thought may have been correct, because you might be a transbian.
So this person says, if you can't understand of why anyone would like men, you're a transbian. But then also, if you think I might be gay, but I only like women, you're a transbian. Doesn't make sense.
If you hate seeing men in your porn, you might be a transbian. If you've always been really interested in LGBT issues, and particularly in trans women, but you never really could put a finger on why, you just like being a really good ally, I have a possible reason why, which is you might be a transbian. If you've ever thought something along the lines of, I know I'm not gay because I love women. In fact, I love women so much, I actually kinda hate men. You might be a transbian.
Straight men can be misandrous, absolutely. And also, it's just basically saying that if you hate men, then it's analogous to being a lesbian, which is quite offensive.
If you've questioned your gender identity before, but your main concern was, what if I don't look hot as a girl? You might be a transbian. If you always play the girl in every video game that gives you the option, you might be a transbian.
That is a common story we hear of autogynephilic males. If you are familiar with Charlie Is So Cool Like, who was huge in the 2010s when he was identifying as a male, British, not at all feminine, quite nerdy, fits the profile. And then in one of her videos, coming out as trans, discussing how did I know I was trans, she talks about playing Animal Crossing and just always wanting to pick a female character. So I feel like it's them living that female identity in the game.
If you're not 100% sure that you want to be a girl, but you jump at the opportunity to be a cat girl, you might be a transbian.
I don't even know what a cat girl is, but just like the video, the words on screen are made by the Twitter account, not this person. All right, that was the full thing. And this shows us a good example. You can compare this to someone saying, what is a woman? Well, a woman could be someone who likes dolls, someone who likes to go into careers such as nursing. We see people now describing the thing as things that correlate with the thing, right? Instead of saying women are adult human females, typically have XX chromosomes, their bodies are organized around a developmental pathway to produce eggs. Women, on average, like careers such as teaching, nursing. Women, on average, are more empathetic. Women, on average are at less extremes of the genius to stupid spectrum. But instead, people will take those averages and things that correlate with the experience of being a woman and use them to describe being a woman, right? So example is musicals. Musicals are plays in theaters accompanied with songs, right? Don't know if that's a great description, but you know what I mean. Musicals typically are comedic. Musicals typically have an act 1 and an act 2. Musicals typically are in theaters. This is now saying if you have an act 1 and an act 2 of a performance, musical. If you have comedy, musical. So that means that a comedian giving a sketch is now a musical. And this person is describing all of these experiences / questionable, are they even experiences, and saying you're a transbian. Well, I related to some of those experiences. I guess I'm a transbian. And this is the kind of indoctrination. Here we see it in plain sight, but this is the kind of indoctrination you see on Reddit. You see someone post this experience, which is clearly autogynephilic fetishism. And then all the comments are like, you may be trans. It sounds to me like you are trans. And it's so harmful. You know, you can laugh at it, but this is potentially someone's going to watch this video and then, you know, months, years down the line, they'll be on estrogen and having a vaginoplasty and having health complications. It's really, really concerning, right? Up next, we have a TikTok of a mother making a complaint to her child's school.
All right, while I was editing this, I sort of suspected there's a chance this may be fake. So I did go back to where I got the video on Twitter, and the comments seem somewhat divided. It seems about 75 people are falling for it if it is fake, and the rest are skeptical. There doesn't seem to be a consensus on either way, so just bear that in mind. But we're going to react to it anyway because, you know, it's pretty funny.
I'll make it a little bit clearer for you. Ellie Jones, who has recently transitioned.
Oh yes, she's the boy, isn't she? Am I correct? I get so confused.
No, Mr. Riley, you're not correct. And this is the whole purpose of my phone call today, which is that this misgendering and misnaming and downright ignorance, to be honest, has to stop.
You can't go around just saying, oh, I want you to call me this, I want you to call me that. Why should any of us have to bow down to you? I don't understand.
You can see her face. She's just, it's so funny when you don't give one of these people what they demand because they just cannot believe it. They're set up by their circles that if they believe something like their daughter is a boy, then the rest of the world has to believe it, and not only believe it, but publicly validate it through their speech, or they are a bigot. And this is seriously triggering for her.
Oh my God. It's 2024. She's not a boy anymore. She's a girl. And her name is Ellie. When are you going to acknowledge that?
You can't just say these things. I want everybody to start calling me helicopter. You can't do that.
Oh my
You can't
God.
do that.
So, are you basically saying to me that you refuse to acknowledge she's now transgender, she has transitioned?
Transgender? I mean, come on. The girl's what, 14, 15?
Yes, exactly, and she's an incredibly brave young girl, and this needs to be acknowledged.
You're making a huge mistake. It's probably
A huge mistake!
Oh, he did not. Triggered. I'm really glad to see this happening, right? Because who knows, this boy may grow up to be an adult and go through several years of therapy and then decide, you know what, I can't be happy unless I transition. And if that was the case and he respects female spaces, I'm there for it, you know, totally there for it. However, to suggest that he has the capacity to transition at age 14, he's dead right, you know, he's dead right to say this to some other serious balls this guy has, because education is so captured by this stuff. He must be at a school that is not woke, and that unless he is just so oblivious to the conversation. But to me, it seems like he is aware of this discourse, because he says, I'm a helicopter, and, you know, saying, oh, you're a transbian? Well, I'm an attack helicopter is kind of the archetypal joke when it comes to saying someone is, you know, they, them, or whatever. I identify as an attack helicopter. So I feel like he's getting it from that. And the whole thing is, you can't make me believe something because you believe it. You can't force me to speak a certain way. And she is making a huge mistake. I sometimes feel sorry for these parents because she thinks that she's being virtuous, but I believe she is abusing her child. And if she then medically transitions the child, you know, she can never really go back from that. She has to either one day accept that she has mortally abused her child, or stay in a bubble. And it's probably easier to stay in the bubble.
Are you for real?
Please, He's just a little confused. It's a phase. It's a phase. It'll get over
It's a girl. She's a girl.
It's a girl.
What happens when he wants to go back, but you've already done too much? You know, this is a Catholic school, don't you? You know, we don't really condone this kind of, I don't even know what to call it, lunacy. We don't condone this kind of lunacy.
Okay, stop right there.
So in her defense, I think his vernacular could be better. I'm not sure he's speaking in the most appropriate manner. And you can see he's getting very riled up and is triggering him. I'm not really here for the whole religious aspect. And it's a shame. It's a shame that this can only occur. I hadn't watched this, by the way, but I did guess earlier, you know, maybe he's protected by his school for these beliefs. And now he can see, because these beliefs in reality, and that a boy cannot be a girl, and just because your kid transitions, it doesn't mean the rest of the world will bow down to it. Unfortunately, we're only seeing it in platforms like YouTube, people who are self-made, and then conservative Christian communities. And I wish it wasn't that, because it's giving, you know, no offense to Christian people, but lots of people don't align themselves with that. And if they know, oh, well, it's only really Christian conservatives that believe this stuff, then they're not going to look twice at it, you know? So shame, but it's still good that it's, you know, being put out there, I guess.
I'm going to launch an official complaint against you.
Oh
with
no, she
the
did
head
it!
teacher, with the school, and with the entire educational board, because I cannot believe that someone like you is even allowed to teach today's youth.
I've got a lot of paperwork here, you know. I got a lot of stuff I could be getting on with instead of having this ridiculous conversation with a woman who's deluded her son so much that he now thinks he's a girl.
Exactly. 100%. It's the vegan cat, you know? We all know who's making the lifestyle choices. You, bitch, have done this. You've somehow convinced your gay kid that he's a girl. And take him out of the Catholic school if you want to abuse him this badly. But he's dead right. And it's a reflection not only of his day needing to do paperwork, but imagine the day we look back on this where gender ideology captured Western society and changed so much about the way we structure society and the things we teach our children. When we look back on that as a society and realize we were wrong, everyone will think, oh gosh, what a waste of time that was. And it's true. It's not just him. It's everything. It's all of the court drama, kids being separated from their parents, the whole medical industry, all the discourse online, the reason I'm here making videos. However, I hope this isn't a waste of time, you know, future career prospects, but honestly. Okay, so next one is actually from a fellow Transbian. And in case you didn't notice earlier, I identified that I'm a Transbian, so I hope this experience speaks for me.
Hi, my name is Luce. I'm a trans and polyamorous therapist in Texas, and this is my therapy theme of the week. This week's theme honors Lesbian Visibility Week. As I myself am a trans lesbian, this is what I want to say about lesbians. One of the reasons why I love being a lesbian and I love lesbians is because we get to show the world that it is possible to love outside the dimensions of patriarchy. We, with sapphic love, create an entirely different dimension, an entirely different way of loving people and living, and it's so fucking beautiful. It's as important as the sunshine. The world is a better place with sapphic love in it.
What did I just watch? Okay, sapphic love. I don't know what it is, so I'm just going to Google it. Sapphic love. In contemporary usage, sapphic refers to femmes attracted to other femmes, whether they identify as lesbian, bisexual, queer, trans, masc, or any diverse identity falling within the spectrum of same-sex attractions. So this definition in itself is hypocritical because it says femmes attracted to other femmes or anything else falling within the spectrum of same-sex attractions. Bitch, same-sex attraction is not a spectrum. It is just male plus male or female plus female. That's not a spectrum. If you want to say sapphic people, which is It sounds like a disgusting word. Maybe you can find a different word that is nicer to say. But sapphic people are femmes attracted to other femmes. Now, if you're femme, this could mean you're a man who dresses feminine. This could mean you're a woman who dresses feminine. That's totally cool. You know, if that is your thing, I would argue that could be relatively rare to be that thing, because most of us want a certain type of sex. That's fine. For those listening, this guy is on camera, full beard, redhead wig on, saying he's a polyamorous trans lesbian. Why are they always polyamorous? You know, I would only assume that the dating pool for this individual is pretty small, being a lesbian with a beard, thinking you can gaslight lesbians to be with you. So to be polyamorous as well is hoping for a lot, because you're going to assume that I'm not going to have just one lesbian girlfriend, but 2 or 3. And, you know, if you just want to get with the other transbians, like the one we saw in that other video, off to you, you know, good for you. But you can't colonize lesbian. No, we're saying no. And any lesbian saying yes, you need to go check yourself and have some self-respect. You need to educate yourself, lesbians who agree with this. And my final point is that he says that they can love outside of the patriarchy, which is just a misandrous thing to say. There's nothing to condone specifically towards saying, oh, well, I'm superior because I don't love men. You know, it just is what it is. It's not superior. It's not less superior. It just is what it is. You're here with a beard. And another side note, AGPs, chokers. You see it all the time. That same person I mentioned, Charlie is so cool, like, it could be this person without the beard. Charlie, she wears a choker, redhead, and it is somehow some sort of sign of the fetish. Who knows? God knows why so many of them are into the chokers. But you're saying we love outside the patriarchy, and it's such an incredible experience. But you, newsflash, you are the patriarchy, because you are a man trying to usurp the term lesbian and rewrite what it means to be same-sex attracted. So this is patriarchy 2.0, you know. Has that occurred to you, Miss Transbian? I wish you the best, honestly. I wish you good luck in your endeavors of therapy. Whoever is your patient, I feel very sorry for. Especially in Texas. Like, are you even going to have any clients?
Guys, little backstory. I was at a Dollar General, which is already under fire for a lot of problems. I, of course, hate that place, but I didn't have a choice, so I went there. And what happened was surprising. So I had a clerk who was using the register, and she couldn't.
It's a shame it's surprising, right, what you're going to see, because these people are set up to live in this little bubble where they get to be the puppet master, and everyone around them has to use the words that they like and not use the words that they don't like, and be so sensitive to their feelings at every moment. And then when it doesn't happen, they are so shocked, you know. That is like plunging in to an ice bath for them.
Get it to work with my card, but I always use my card here at this store, right? Well, for some reason, the store was saying checking account not valid or something weird, right? So obviously it was a Dollar General's problem with the account, with the POS. Okay, so I was patient with her and everything, but then there was a customer behind, and this other guy came up named Quentin, and he didn't help us at all. He was really rude to me and said, "Can you move so I can help the other customer?" And I said, "Sir, you haven't helped me yet. Can we go to another register?" And he proceeded to be completely transphobic to me and said, "Ma'am, sir, whatever you are, get the fuck out." I'm not even joking.
So I can tell this story is oversimplified, first of all, but can you believe he called her ma'am? You know, it's kind of considerate that he's saying ma'am or sir, whatever you are, because at least it's leaving it open to interpretation instead of, calling her a woman.
His name is Quentin. He works at Dollar General, hopefully not for long, in Pflugerville, Texas. Get him the fuck out of that store. I'm gonna post this video. Fuck you, Quentin. You're transphobic as hell. All this.
You don't align to my beliefs, so I'm going to try to get you fired. Lovely. Also a problem with the left. Stop deplatforming people. Just stop. It makes you look pathetic.
This is Quentin at the Dollar General in Pflugerville. What did you say, Quentin? You called me a she, her?
I don't know what.
And you said to get the fuck out because your system's...
I don't know what you said, man. Go on somewhere.
Oh, no, what'd you call me? Please, Quentin. Please feel free to tell me what you called me.
We can play this game all day.
Oh, what game? Where you're being transphobic and offensive because your system's not working, and I asked if we could use another register, and you said,
This
get the fuck out of
fellow here
here?
is giving me a hard time.
Okay, so if he said, get the fuck out of here after she just said, can you please serve me, then obviously that's wrong. I don't see why he would say that unless she had already kicked off about something. There was already a transphobic accusation going on. But what's happening right here, I really don't like, because I've never done this before. And I don't think I ever will, hopefully, unless it's extra juicy. But I really don't like this culture where something happens and then out comes the phone recording people. I just think it's not classy. We don't need to put everything online. We don't need to expose everything. It's okay to deal with interactions one-on-one, in person. And I just don't think it's very fair. Someone might be having a really bad day, have a bit of an episode. We've all been there. And then the first thing you do is just take out your phone and start filming them, that's then going to be online forever. And then that's on you. So I think fair enough. If someone's being like downright abusive to someone else, go for it. Those things are helpful, especially for, crime reporting. But this is just cheap, it's not cool.
I'm here at Dollar General.
All right,
doesn't want to leave because their card is declined because
my card did not. It did not say insufficient funds. What did it say, ma'am? Did my card say insufficient funds, or did it say that your system's not working? No, I'm serious, because this isn't cool.
Is it okay if I check out?
She's like,
this is not. It did
leave
not
me
say
out of
insufficient
this.
funds, sir. What did it fucking say? It said no checking account. What does that mean? It did not say insufficient funds. We're going back to your transphobia. What did you say to me, sir? You giving me a hard time here before at this place. What did you say to me? Keep filming, because it's going to be on here.
Get rid of him now, it says.
Fuck you. You're going to lose your job, sir. Have a good one. I guarantee that.
Oh, she's on revenge. Why can't you just let the racists and the transphobes be out in plain sight, Because that's what we should be doing. We should let idiots speak for themselves. If you genuinely think this person is so discriminatory, then let him be out in plain sight. Let his employer deal with that. And sure, he looks like he has an attitude. He doesn't look like the most professional person, Leave him alone in that sense. You can complain and say this guy was rude, but just throwing the transphobia card, it doesn't work. And I'm glad that it's starting not to work. The other woman in this store was just like, no, I'm not having it. And we need more examples of these, because then more people can stand up to it, right? So I hope that he does not get fired for that reason, but he could definitely improve his attitude overall. And that is it for today's episode, everyone. I hope you enjoyed it. And let me know what you thought of those crazy woke TikToks below. What do you think of the Transbians of 2024? Please rate me on Spotify or Apple Podcasts. Leave me a review. I would really appreciate that. Subscribe if you've not already. And with that said, I will see you in the next one. Bye.